read and understand an excerpt from a novel about travel. Summarize a story. So we're going to read and understand like a short piece of a story or a novel, and it's about traveling, and we're going to summarize a story. We're going to do the summary ourselves. Now, before we start, let's think for a minute. Would you like to travel all around the world? Would you? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Would you like to travel all around the world? And what do you think would be the good and bad things about making a long journey? A long journey like traveling around the world. So you go to many places or many countries or many cities like in one journey. So here you can see in the picture, we have like the airplane, and we have a ship or a cruise. We have like multiple places around the world. So which countries do you really want to visit? And would you like to travel all around the world or not? For me, I'd love to travel all around the world because I really like to learn new languages, meet new people, and see new places. And it's exciting for me to learn about the history of other cities or other countries. And what do you think would be the good and bad things about making a long journey? I think the good things would be learning new things. Bad thing would be getting too tired on long journeys. You even sometimes start to lose a lot of yourself during the journey. And it's too expensive. You spend a lot of money if you're traveling to different places. You still use like different currencies, like different types of money, different currencies. And this is so expensive. So it's like it's not so good for your health and nor your like pocket or money. What do you think? You can say your own example or your own answer. Now let's move to the listening and reading part. And of course, before we start any listening or reading, we're going to learn some vocabulary first. But before we start, let's read this note. You are going to read an excerpt from a novel. So remember, the P is silent in excerpt. Excerpt. So you're going to read an excerpt from a novel. And what is an excerpt anyways? An excerpt is a short piece of a story. So a novel is a story, and an excerpt is the short piece of that story. So it's more like a summary of that story, a brief of the story. So we have novel excerpts. The excerpt below is taken from Jules Verne's novel Around the World in 80 Days. So the excerpt below is taken from Jules Verne's novel, which is Around the World in 80 Days. See, that's the cover of it, Around the World in 80 Days. Would you travel the world in just 80 days? It's crazy, right? Can you remember where you saw an excerpt before in this book? And what was the title of the story? So have you read an excerpt before, and what was the title of the story? Like any other books, a summary of a novel or a story. New vocabulary. Ready? Let's go ahead and start. An excerpt. An excerpt. We have here an excerpt is a noun. It's a name of a thing. And what is that thing? An excerpt is a short piece of a story. So what is an excerpt? It's a short piece of a story. So I take a chunk or a little piece of the story that tells me about it. Suddenly, suddenly. You can see the word suddenly ends in ly, so it's like sudden and then ly. And we use this as an adverb. So suddenly is an adverb. It's a describing word that describes the verbs or other adjectives. So suddenly, suddenly, it's an adverb, and it means something that happens quickly or isn't expected. So if something happens suddenly, that means it happened quickly and wasn't expected. I never really expected that thing, and it happened real quick. Railway line, railway line. Looking at the word railway, we know it has something related to trains or railways, right? So when I say railway line, this is a noun, railway line. It means two metal lines that a train travels on. So you know the track that the train travels on? The little lines, they are made from metal. These what we call railway lines. Passenger. Passenger is also a noun. It's a name of a person or a name of a thing. So that thing is a person who is traveling on a bus, train, ship, or plane. So if you're traveling on a bus, train, ship, or plane, you are one of the passengers. So a passenger is like a traveler on a thing that travels with it, like a train, a bus, a ship, or a plane. Passenger. Passenger is a noun. Cross. You can say cross average. Cross average. So we have cross, and that's a verb. Cross a bridge. And that means to travel from one side to another. So remember we said like cross the street. To cross the street, you're going from one side to the other side of the street. So we have cross. Cheer. Cheer is a verb. To cheer someone, cheer. It means to shout with happiness. Like for example, the football player scored a goal at the end of the match during the finals. All, like the audience did what, or all the fans did what? They cheered for him. So we have cheer. Cheer means it's a verb, an action, and it means to shout with happiness. Like, go Mo Salah, go, I'm cheering for him right now. Now, the first part. If you look at the picture here, just looking at it, in what century do you think the journey in the novel happens? Do you think it happened in the present time, in the 2000s, or was it a very old story or novel? What do you think, looking at the hats, at the way they are dressed, even at that suitcase, at the train itself? It looks like it's made out of wood and it looks like really old, right? So, in the 19th century or the 1800s, right? How did people travel at that time? So how did people go from places to other places that time? Did they have like airplanes, or they traveled by ship or by train? Here we have an example, the train. So we have trains. However, they also did sail from a place to another. To sail, they went on voyages, right? We call them by ship. What different types of transportation do you think were most common then? Most common, I mean like at that time. Which means of transportation were most common, like widely used at that time? Horses. Horses were like the Uber at that time, right? So people used to ride horses everywhere. So horses, horse and a cart. For example, if you're not taking a train or the ship to travel somewhere and you want to travel on land, like normally in your own private car, people didn't have cars at that time, but they had carts. And a cart is that little car thing or the little box with wheels that the horse pulls throughout the way. So people used horses to ride horses or ride a horse and a cart. Like in a cart that is pulled by a horse.
تقدر تتابع كل دروسك على تطبيق مدرستنا بلس. مدرستنا، المستقبل يبدأ الآن.